Welcome to Zoe Stories. Sister's game changed me forever. I never thought a single weekend at my sister's apartment could turn my life upside down. My name is Alex, a 23-year-old office assistant working long hours in a small marketing firm. My life was fairly ordinary: wake up, work, go home, repeat, until my sister, Vanessa, with her sharp wit and mischievous grin, decided that I needed a lesson in fun. Vanessa had always been the bold, daring type. Where I preferred quiet evenings, she thrived in parties, makeup, and flamboyant fashion. Our relationship had always been playful but protective. She teased me relentlessly, and I would grumble and retreat into my routines. But this weekend, she had other plans. It started with a text Friday evening. "Alex, you're coming over. I have something special planned. Bring nothing but yourself." I hesitated, unsure what special meant. Knowing Vanessa, it could be anything: a surprise shopping spree, a small prank, or some elaborate social experiment. Arriving at her apartment, I was immediately struck by the setup. Her living room had been transformed into a makeshift studio, mirrors and lights scattered around, outfits carefully laid across the sofa. Vanessa greeted me in a fitted pink dress, heels that made her tower slightly, and her trademark smirk. "Welcome to the weekend you'll never forget," she said. I laughed nervously, unsure what I had signed up for. "What is all this?" "Oh, you'll see," she replied, dragging me toward the center of the room. "Today you're going to play a game. And, trust me, it's going to change you." Vanessa's game, she explained, was simple but daring. I had to dress, act, and even attend a small gathering as her chosen persona. At first, I thought she was joking. Me? In her clothes? Makeup? Socially performing in front of others? The thought made my stomach knot with both excitement and fear. I've always had an interest in crossdressing, though I never acted on it beyond private experiments in my room. There was something thrilling about slipping into another identity, another version of myself that felt freer, bolder, but also more vulnerable. Vanessa must have sensed this curiosity. Her teasing smile hinted at a deeper intention behind her game. "I know you've wondered," Vanessa said, picking up a soft pink blouse and a short skirt. "You've been hiding behind those button-downs and sneakers. Today, you get to explore that other side." Fully. I froze, a mix of shock and anticipation flooding me. The idea of being fully seen, fully transformed, was terrifying and intoxicating. My heart pounded as I accepted the challenge, curiosity winning over hesitation. Vanessa guided me to the bedroom, showing me the outfits she had carefully selected. Each piece was feminine, bold, and impossible to ignore. The makeup kit looked like something out of a professional salon, brushes arranged neatly, colors dazzling in their vibrancy. "Don't be shy," Vanessa encouraged. "This is your time. Become whoever you want, or whoever I decide you'll be." The process began slowly. Vanessa coached me through the basics of makeup, applying foundation, blush, and lipstick with gentle hands that were strangely both maternal and mischievous. Every stroke altered my reflection. Every change made my heart race. I hardly recognized the person in the mirror, a stranger, and yet a version of myself I had longed to explore. "Now the clothes," Vanessa said. She helped me into the outfit, adjusting straps and hems, making sure everything was perfect. The skirt hugged my waist, the blouse accentuated my shoulders and arms, and the heels made me taller, changing my posture in ways that felt alien yet empowering. I stumbled slightly, unfamiliar with the rhythm of walking in heels, and Vanessa laughed warmly, steadying me.
"This is it," she said.
"You're not just Alex anymore. You're Eliza. And tonight, Eliza will play, laugh, and maybe discover herself." I stared at the reflection, a mixture of fear and exhilaration. This was more than a game. It was a challenge to confront my hidden desires and insecurities, to step into a persona I had only imagined. My body felt different, my mind raced, and I realized that this weekend was going to be unlike anything I had ever experienced. As Vanessa prepared her little gathering, a few friends from college, some colleagues who didn't know me well, she explained the rules. Eliza is confident, flirtatious, and unafraid. Alex is gone for the night. Remember, the fun is in the tension, in the secrecy. The more you act, the more real it becomes. I nodded, unsure how to respond. The mix of anxiety and thrill made my hands tremble slightly. Vanessa smiled, sensing my hesitation, and whispered, "Trust me. You'll thank me later." The sun dipped below the horizon as the first guests arrived. Vanessa led me into the living room, where laughter and chatter filled the air. I felt the eyes on me immediately, some curious, some admiring. Every glance made my pulse quicken. I realized the game had begun, and there was no turning back. For the first time, I wasn't hiding. I was visible, performing a bold, transformed self, and the reaction was electrifying. Vanessa's grin told me I had passed the first test. She had seen potential in me, a side I hadn't dared to embrace. And as I took a deep breath, stepping into the room with my head held high, I realized something profound. This wasn't just a game. This was the beginning of a journey that would change me forever. The first hours of the evening were a blur of excitement, nerves, and self-discovery. Vanessa's apartment had become a stage, and I, now Eliza, was the reluctant star. The mirror in the living room reflected a version of myself I barely recognized. The soft curve of my hips, the delicate arch of my brows, the way my hair framed my face. Every detail felt heightened, every movement amplified. Even the smallest gesture, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear, felt charged with meaning. Vanessa's friends began arriving, and their reactions were immediate. Gasps, smiles, and whispered compliments swirled around me. "Wow, Eliza! You look amazing," one of her friends exclaimed, a girl from college with a keen eye for fashion. Another raised her eyebrows playfully, clearly impressed. My face flushed, a mix of embarrassment and pride surging through me. The first challenge came almost instantly: conversation. I had to adapt my voice, my posture, my mannerisms. Vanessa whispered tips in my ear. "Keep your shoulders relaxed, smile naturally, laugh a little louder, make eye contact." Each suggestion was a new rule, a new layer of the persona I had to inhabit. I stumbled at first, my words slightly clipped, my gestures awkward. But with each laugh, each compliment, I felt myself slipping further into Eliza. It wasn't just the external transformation. My mind was racing with conflicting emotions. There was shame, a sense of vulnerability that came with being seen so openly. Yet, alongside it was an undeniable thrill, a deep, electrifying excitement at exploring this hidden side of myself. I realized that every glance, every word, every small action was an experiment in pushing boundaries, testing the limits of who I could be. Vanessa, ever watchful, leaned in close. "Relax. The key is confidence. You look like you belong here, but more importantly, you feel like you belong. Let them see Eliza, not Alex." Her words were both comforting and challenging, a reminder that this was as much about performance as discovery. The first game of the evening was a playful dare Vanessa had set up. Everyone had to reveal a secret or perform a small act of bravery. My heart thumped as she nudged me forward. "Your turn, Eliza," she said, eyes sparkling with mischief. I swallowed, feeling the heat rise in my chest. I had no idea what to reveal, nor her story. But then I did something I never thought I could. I leaned into the persona. I've always liked experimenting with fashion, with clothes, with makeup. I confessed, my voice shaking slightly, but growing steadier. It's something I've kept private, something I've always been curious about. The room went quiet for a heartbeat, then laughter and applause erupted. Vanessa winked at me, clearly pleased. I felt a surge of pride and relief, realizing that honesty, even in disguise, could be empowering. As the evening progressed, I moved through the room with increasing ease. Vanessa's guidance had been invaluable, but I was beginning to trust my instincts, to feel the rhythm of Eliza naturally. Every step in the heels became smoother, every smile more genuine, every laugh more carefree. It was intoxicating to be noticed, to be admired, to inhabit a persona that was both daring and exhilarating. Yet the tension never fully left me. Each time someone approached too closely, or a comment hinted at curiosity, I felt a spike of anxiety. Would someone figure out my secret? How much of Alex lingered beneath Eliza? The duality of my existence was both thrilling and terrifying, a delicate balance I had to maintain to survive the night unscathed. Vanessa, sensing my internal struggle, came to my side. "You're doing amazing. But remember, the challenge isn't just to look the part. It's to feel it, to own it. Eliza isn't hiding, she's alive, and tonight, she's unstoppable." Her words were a spark, igniting confidence and daring in equal measure. I straightened my posture, smiled wider, and stepped further into the persona that had begun to consume me. The first hour of the gathering passed in a haze of conversation, laughter, and flirtatious glances. I caught Vanessa watching me with a mix of pride and amusement, and I realized she had orchestrated more than a game. She had created a crucible, a situation that would push me beyond the safe confines of Alex into the vibrant, daring world of Eliza. As the evening drew on, I noticed subtle changes in my behavior. I was speaking more fluidly, laughing more freely, and even the smallest gestures, crossing my legs, tilting my head, brushing hair from my face, felt natural, expressive, and undeniably feminine. The transformation wasn't just physical, it was emotional, psychological, a full immersion into another self that I had long suppressed. Yet, amid the excitement, a quiet fear lingered. The more I embraced Eliza, the more I wondered what would happen when the night ended. Could I return to Alex as if nothing had happened? Or had I crossed a threshold from which there was no going back? That uncertainty, that fragile line between exhilaration and exposure, was the heartbeat of the evening and the beginning of a suspenseful journey that would change me forever. The music shifted to a slower, more intimate rhythm, and the atmosphere in Vanessa's apartment changed subtly. The playful energy of the early evening morphed into a quiet intensity, a space where whispers and glances carried more weight than laughter. Eliza, felt it immediately. Every movement, every breath, every tilt of my head was being noticed. The thrill of attention mixed with a sharp spike of anxiety, reminding me that this persona, though exhilarating, was fragile and exposed. Vanessa leaned closer, her fingers brushing lightly against my arm. "Tonight isn't just about fun," she whispered, eyes glinting with mischief. "It's about seeing how far you can go, and how much you can trust yourself." Her words sent shivers down my spine, half from excitement, half from the subtle tension that tightened my chest. I realized that Vanessa wasn't just orchestrating a game, she was testing boundaries, exploring the edge of my comfort zone. The first challenge of the evening's second phase came unexpectedly. One of Vanessa's friends, a sharp-eyed girl named Lila, approached me with a playful smirk. "Eliza, I dare you to dance with me. No holding back." My heart skipped a beat. Dancing wasn't just movement, it was performance, exposure, vulnerability. I glanced at Vanessa, who nodded encouragingly, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. I stepped onto the small dance floor, heels clicking against the hardwood, and tried to synchronize my movements with Lila's rhythm. At first, my steps were hesitant, jerky, a clear reflection of my internal turmoil. But as the music carried us forward, I began to feel the transformation more deeply. Each sway of my hips, each extension of my arms, each subtle flick of my hair felt natural, feminine, and undeniably powerful. As we danced, I noticed the reactions around the room. Whispers of admiration, surprised gasps, and approving nods punctuated the rhythm of the music. Vanessa watched intently, a knowing smile on her lips. My confidence grew, yet so did the fear. Every compliment, every glance, every approving smile was a double-edged sword. It elevated Eliza while reminding Alex of how exposed he truly was beneath the surface. The emotional complexity of the evening deepened when a group of Vanessa's friends decided to play a storytelling game. Each person had to share a secret or an embarrassing story, and the challenge was to do so with flair. My pulse raced as I realized I would have to reveal more of myself, more of the duality I carried. I felt my fingers tremble slightly, my voice quivering as I prepared to speak. I've never really told anyone this, I began, taking a deep breath. But I've always had a fascination with living as someone else, experimenting with femininity, with beauty, with being noticed in ways I never dared as myself. My words hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. The room was silent for a heartbeat, then erupted in gentle applause and encouraging smiles. Relief washed over me, but it was tinged with a strange new anxiety. Sharing my secret made me feel closer to Eliza, yet it also heightened the risk of discovery, of judgment, of losing control over this fragile persona. As the evening progressed, I found myself navigating a delicate balance. Every interaction, every laugh, every glance required attention and calculation. The thrill of Eliza's freedom was intoxicating, yet the danger of exposure never left my mind. Vanessa's playful nudges, the subtle challenges from her friends, and the constant social scrutiny created a pressure cooker atmosphere, one where excitement and fear intertwined in every heartbeat. The second phase of the build-up also introduced unexpected intimacy. Vanessa suggested a makeover challenge. Each participant had to style their hair, apply makeup, and accessorize to reflect a bold, confident version of themselves. My hands shook slightly as I selected colors and tools, each brushstroke a test of precision and courage. Applying eyeliner, mascara, and blush felt transformative, a ritual that both concealed and revealed. I watched the reflection in the mirror, seeing Eliza's eyes sparkle, her cheeks flush, her lips curve into a confident smile. But alongside the excitement came subtle panic. Each time someone glanced at me, complimented me, or teased me, I felt the fragile boundary between Alex and Eliza waver. Was I performing too convincingly? Could someone see through the mask, recognizing the hesitation behind the confidence, the nervous twitch behind the laughter? These thoughts sent adrenaline coursing through my veins, heightening both fear and thrill. Vanessa, ever attentive, leaned in again. "You're doing beautifully. But remember, the challenge isn't perfection, it's courage. Every time you step closer to Eliza, you're proving something to yourself. Embrace it, don't fight it." Her words were a lifeline, a grounding force in the storm of emotions. I nodded, exhaling slowly, and allowed myself to fully inhabit the persona. By the end of the second hour, I had achieved a fragile equilibrium. I moved with grace, spoke with confidence, and laughed with abandon, but beneath the surface, the tension never fully dissipated. The suspense of the evening was building, each moment adding weight to the eventual climax. Eliza was alive, vibrant, and commanding attention, but the shadow of Alex's fear and vulnerability remained, a constant reminder that every thrill carried risk. The first 2,000 words of the build-up had set the stage. Eliza's persona was growing stronger, her confidence expanding, and the social challenges were intensifying. Yet the emotional stakes were equally high, and the tension of being caught or judged loomed over every interaction. This was no longer just a playful evening. It was a test of identity, courage, and control, and the suspense was only beginning to deepen. The night deepened, and the apartment's lights dimmed to a soft glow, casting shadows that danced across the walls. The music slowed, replaced by a low, pulsating rhythm that seemed to echo the tension building inside me. Vanessa had orchestrated the evening like a carefully plotted story, and now I was the protagonist, caught between exhilaration and fear. Every glance, every whispered comment, every laugh carried a subtle weight, and I could feel the duality of Alex and Eliza pulling at me from opposite directions. Vanessa approached with a tray of drinks, a mischievous smile playing on her lips. "Time for another game," she said, tilting her head. "This one's about observation. You'll have to navigate the room, interact with everyone, and respond naturally, but there's a twist. I'll be giving secret cues to see if you can react convincingly as Eliza without breaking character." My heart leapt. The stakes had just been raised. What seemed like a playful evening had now morphed into a psychological tightrope. I accepted the first cue, a subtle glance from Vanessa, and felt a jolt of adrenaline as I adjusted my posture, my expression, and even the tilt of my head. I was performing, yes, but more than that, I was living it. Each interaction became a test of instinct and control. A friend leaned in, asking a casual question about a recent party. I responded smoothly, laughter in my voice, fluttering my lashes unconsciously. Inside, though, Alex's anxiety tightened my chest like a vice. Every compliment, every intrigued glance was both validation and a reminder of the precariousness of my double life. The challenges weren't just social, they were sensory, too. Vanessa guided me to a corner where a mirror reflected the entire room. "Observe yourself," she whispered, "and adjust. Every movement, every expression, every detail matters." I stared at my reflection. Eliza's eyes sparkled under the soft lighting. Her lips were a perfect curve, her cheeks flushed. But in the periphery, I could feel Alex, the nervous twitch of a hand, the subtle tension in my shoulders. The reflection showed a composite of confidence and fear, allure and vulnerability. It was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. Then came a playful, but intense interaction. Vanessa's friend Lila whispered a dare. "Eliza, I dare you to walk across the room in those heels while balancing this wine glass." The tiny challenge seemed innocent, but the symbolism was heavy. Each careful step felt like navigating a minefield. One wrong move, one falter, and the illusion would shatter. My heels clicked against the hardwood, a rhythmic heartbeat that mirrored my own pounding pulse. Every muscle was engaged, every nerve alert. The wine glass wobbled slightly in my hand, and for a moment, panic surged. But then instinct took over. I adjusted my stance, controlled my breathing, and completed the walk flawlessly, feeling a rush of triumph and validation wash over me. Vanessa clapped softly, a subtle yet approving gesture.
"See?
Confidence isn't about perfection, it's about control. About embracing the persona fully, even when the stakes are high." Her words sank deep into my psyche. They weren't just encouragement. They were a reminder that Eliza was growing stronger, more assertive, more real with every passing moment. As the evening wore on, the stakes escalated further. Vanessa introduced another twist, a small role-playing scenario where I had to navigate a delicate social situation. I had to flirt subtly with a mock suitor, balance the reactions of onlookers, and maintain Eliza's composure under scrutiny. My pulse raced. I laughed at the right moments, maintained eye contact, and allowed my posture and gestures to embody Eliza fully. But beneath the surface, Alex's anxiety simmered. Every laugh and fluttering eyelash was a high-wire act, a delicate dance between freedom and exposure. The psychological tension intensified when Vanessa whispered a final instruction. "Soon, someone unexpected may arrive. Your challenge is to react naturally, stay in character, and maintain your composure. Eliza must remain untouchable, even if Alex feels threatened." My breath caught. The uncertainty, the looming possibility of discovery, sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't just a game anymore. It was a test of identity, courage, and emotional resilience. I moved through the room with heightened awareness, each conversation a performance, each laugh measured, yet genuine. The adrenaline, the social scrutiny, and the thrill of transformation coalesced into a singular, almost overwhelming experience. I was Eliza in every sense that mattered, bold, confident, alluring, but the shadow of Alex's fear lingered, a subtle reminder that this persona was as fragile as it was exhilarating. By the end of Build-Up Part 3, the tension had reached a new peak. The challenges were more complex, the social scrutiny sharper, and the psychological stakes higher. Eliza's confidence continued to grow, but Alex's fear remained, lurking beneath the surface, ready to surface at any misstep. The night was far from over, and the suspense of what would come next, what unexpected challenge or visitor might appear, hung in the air like an unspoken promise of drama and transformation. The evening's energy shifted as shadows grew longer, and the hum of distant traffic seeped through the apartment windows. "Vanessa, ever the orchestrator of chaos and thrill, had disappeared briefly, leaving me alone with a drink in hand and the subtle pressure of the night pressing down on me. My reflection in the hallway mirror caught my eye, Eliza's silhouette poised, alluring, yet betraying the slightest tremor of Alex's apprehension. I ran a hand over my hair, adjusting the wig that now felt like an extension of my very identity. Each strand reminded me that tonight wasn't just a game, it was a metamorphosis. Vanessa's return was abrupt, as if she had materialized from the shadows themselves. "Time for the ultimate test," she announced, her voice low and teasing. My stomach twisted. I had faced dares, role-playing, balancing acts, but this was different. She led me to the center of the living room, now dimly lit, with only a single spotlight illuminating the area. "You'll have to navigate attention and temptation simultaneously. Keep Eliza alive and Alex hidden, or risk everything unraveling." The first challenge was deceptively simple. A group of friends, previously observing from the periphery, were instructed to approach me with subtle provocations, flirtations, compliments, and teasing questions. My heart hammered against my ribs as I responded, each word carefully chosen, each laugh and flutter of lashes calculated. Alex's anxiety whispered at the edges of my consciousness. What if a slip of the tongue revealed my secret? What if a glance or gesture betrayed the duality? The fear was electric, sparking in my veins, but at the same time, it was thrilling, a cocktail of risk and exhilaration. A friend, Maya, stepped forward with a playful smirk. "Eliza, I've never seen you in that dress before, it's bold," she teased, tilting her head. My lips curved into a smile, soft and coquettish, while my hands rested lightly on my hips, balancing the wine glass. Inside, Alex's pulse spiked. Every word, every look was a tightrope walk between revelation and concealment. I managed a light laugh, engaging Maya without betraying a single hint of fear. The sensation was intoxicating. I was fully immersed in Eliza, yet Alex's presence lingered like a shadow I couldn't shake. Vanessa circled, her eyes sharp, measuring every micro-expression. "Confidence is nothing without composure," she murmured. Her words were both a guide and a warning. The social interactions intensified, a delicate dance of gestures, words, and subtleties. A friend leaned in, whispering a suggestive remark. My breath caught, a flicker of panic rising, but I steadied myself, allowing Eliza's persona to carry the moment. The thrill of successfully navigating such precarious situations made the transformation feel more tangible, more real. The climax of this segment of the night came when Vanessa introduced a time challenge. "You'll be the center of attention for 10 minutes, and every glance or whisper counts. Maintain Eliza's poise, allure, and confidence. Alex must remain unseen, silent, hidden beneath Eliza's persona. Fail, and the night's consequences will intensify." My chest tightened, adrenaline surging through me like a live current. I positioned myself in the middle of the room, aware of every eye tracking my movements, every subtle murmur rippling through the crowd. The next 10 minutes were a blur of motion and sensation. I twirled lightly, adjusting my dress, letting the fabric sway as I moved. Every gesture, every tilt of the head, every flutter of lashes was deliberate. Compliments and teasing remarks bounced around me, each requiring a precise, instinctive reaction. Alex's anxiety roared beneath the surface, threatening to spill, yet I clung to Eliza, letting her strength guide my voice, my posture, and my expressions. Each successful interaction bolstered the persona, the thrill of concealment mingling with the rush of newfound power. Midway through, Vanessa added another layer, a whispered, secret dare that I had to perform while keeping the social flow uninterrupted. My mind raced, calculating movements, gauging reactions, and predicting outcomes. A stumble or misstep could expose Alex, unravel Eliza, and topple the delicate balance of the night. The tension was exquisite, a constant interplay of control and risk. Every step felt monumental. Every gesture carried weight beyond the ordinary. By the end of Build Up Part 4, I was fully transformed. Eliza radiated confidence, charm, and allure, while Alex lurked invisibly beneath, tethered to the edges of my consciousness. The thrill of performing, concealing, and navigating a web of social and psychological challenges had heightened the suspense to a near-breaking point. The stage was set, the tension palpable, and the night's ultimate climax loomed just beyond the horizon, promising tests that would challenge every facet of identity, courage, and emotional resilience. The living room pulsed with energy, a dimly lit stage set for my final test. Vanessa's eyes glinted like a predator's, analyzing every nuance of my movements, every flicker of hesitation. I could feel Alex crouched beneath the surface, a silent passenger within me, coiled tight with anxiety. My hands trembled slightly, but Eliza's persona held firm, poise, charm, and elegance radiating with each careful step. Vanessa's challenge escalated suddenly. "You're not just Eliza tonight," she whispered in my ear, her breath warm and electrifying. "You're the life of this party. Every glance, every word, every interaction will test your control. Fail, and the consequences are irreversible." My pulse quickened, a mixture of dread and excitement electrifying my veins. The room seemed to tilt, the faces of friends morphing into a sea of expectation and scrutiny. The first test was improvisational. Friends approached with unexpected scenarios, forcing me to react in character while keeping Alex hidden. One friend leaned close, whispering flirtatious comments and testing boundaries. My stomach knotted, every instinct screaming caution, yet Eliza's confidence guided me. I tilted my head, letting my eyes sparkle mischievously, responding with playful laughter and carefully measured words. The thrill of successfully navigating the line between charm and concealment sent shivers down my spine. A second test emerged. Vanessa handed me a tray of drinks and instructed me to mingle, balancing elegance with subtlety. Every movement was a tightrope walk: spill a drink, hesitate, or reveal a quiver of nervousness, and Alex might be exposed. I felt the weight of every eye on me, every whispered comment amplifying the stakes. My pulse raced, but as Eliza, I moved fluidly, laughing, twirling lightly, and offering charming quips, maintaining the delicate equilibrium between persona and hidden self. Vanessa's presence was a constant, sharp reminder that failure was not an option. She whispered critiques in real time, nudging me to adjust a gesture or alter a tone. The combination of her guidance and the unpredictable social landscape forced my mind into hyper-awareness. Each word, each look carried meaning beyond the superficial. I was not just performing. I was surviving, concealing, thriving, and transforming simultaneously. The night intensified further when Vanessa introduced a hidden element, a secret challenge known only to her. I had to flirt subtly with a stranger she had invited, testing my ability to navigate risk without revealing Alex. My heart pounded violently, every muscle taut with tension. I approached the stranger, Eliza fully in command, radiating warmth, allure, and confidence. Every word was calculated, every laugh perfect, every movement graceful. Alex's anxiety was omnipresent, but beneath Eliza's mask, I found a new resilience, a sense of control I hadn't realized I possessed. The challenge escalated when Vanessa whispered, "Now, Eliza, a misstep here will undo everything." A friend intentionally misinterpreted my gestures, creating a moment where Alex might slip. My stomach churned, fear clashing with exhilaration. I paused briefly, recalibrated, and continued with flawless grace. The risk only heightened the thrill, the suspense coiling tighter around my nerves. I felt every eye on me, every heartbeat echoing like a drumbeat of tension. The persona of Eliza was no longer just a shield. It had become a weapon, a source of power and transformation. As Build Up Part 5 drew to its close, the atmosphere reached its peak. I was fully immersed as Eliza, navigating social mazes, performing, and concealing Alex with precision. The room thrummed with expectation, suspense, and subtle threat. The final act loomed, a confrontation, a revelation, or a twist that would test every skill I had honed tonight. The stage was set for the climax, where the stakes would explode, identities would collide, and secrets would hang by a single thread. By the end of this part, I felt the intoxicating duality of my transformation. Alex's fear lingered, shadowing my steps, but Eliza's confidence radiated outward, a brilliant, dangerous flame. Every sense was heightened: sight, sound, touch, and every decision mattered. The night had become a living game, one where success was survival and failure carried emotional peril. The evening had grown heavier, charged with a tension that pressed against my chest. The laughter and chatter around me felt distant, like the hum of a world I was only half a part of. Eliza's persona glimmered flawlessly, confident, magnetic, but beneath that polished exterior, Alex throbbed with anxiety. Every word I spoke, every step I took, was a negotiation between two identities, each pulling in opposite directions. Vanessa's sudden arrival in the center of the room shifted everything. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the crowd before locking onto mine. "Time for the ultimate test," she announced, her voice low and commanding. The room seemed to contract around me, the weight of expectation almost unbearable. A stranger she had invited, tall, poised, and striking, was guided into the center, their presence a deliberate provocation. This was no ordinary social challenge. Vanessa's gaze made it clear. Any slip, any trace of Alex, and the evening's delicate balance would collapse. I felt my palms sweat beneath the thin silk of my gloves. Eliza's confidence was a fragile mask now, thinner at the edges, trembling with the pressure of scrutiny. The stranger's eyes met mine, curious and calculating, a challenge in themselves. I approached, heels clicking softly against the hardwood floor, each step a careful negotiation of balance, poise, and concealment. My heart raced violently, every nerve alive with tension. A single misstep could unravel the persona, exposing Alex in the worst possible moment. Vanessa leaned close, whispering instructions only I could hear. "Push the boundaries, flirt, charm, seduce, but do not falter. One slip, and your secret is mine to command." My stomach twisted at her words. The thrill mingled with fear, each heartbeat a drumbeat of suspense. I tilted my head, allowed a playful smile to flirt with the edges of my lips, and engaged the stranger in conversation. Each sentence was calculated. Every laugh, every gesture was rehearsed in my mind 1,000 times. But the stranger was unpredictable. They leaned in closer, misinterpreting one of my playful glances as something deeper, more revealing. My pulse skyrocketed. Alex's panic surged, a torrent threatening to break through. I caught the movement of my own fingers, trembling slightly as I adjusted my stance. Eliza had to respond seamlessly. A soft laugh, a delicate tilt of the head, and a casual brush of the hand against theirs, a calculated maneuver to redirect attention. My chest heaved with relief as the immediate danger passed, but Vanessa's gaze did not waver. She was still watching, still calculating, still waiting. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the far corner of the room. A tray of drinks toppled, shattering glass across the polished floor. All heads turned, and I felt the sharp tug of instinct. Hide, retreat, protect the secret. My knees threatened to buckle, but Eliza's persona held firm. I pivoted gracefully, excusing myself with charm and humor, laughing softly as I stabilized the tray of drinks for the guests who had rushed to help. Every muscle screamed tension. Alex's anxiety and Eliza's composure collided violently in my chest. Vanessa approached quietly, her voice a velvet threat. "You're handling it, but for how long? The real test isn't the crowd, it's the unpredictability of life." Her words sank into me like stones, heavy and inescapable. I realized the stakes had shifted. This wasn't just about poise, confidence, or concealment anymore. It was about control over every aspect of my dual existence, about navigating danger, fear, and temptation in real time. The room itself had become a battlefield, each smile, glance, and gesture a potential mine. The stranger returned, now joined by another unexpected guest. Vanessa had slipped into the room, an acquaintance with piercing eyes and an uncanny ability to read people. Their gaze swept over me, analyzing, judging, seeking the slightest crack in the Eliza facade. Every movement felt heavier, slower, and deliberate. The sensation of high heels digging into the floor merged with the pounding of my heart. Every laugh, every tilt of my head, every flick of the hair had to be perfect. Alex's presence screamed urgency, but I had to maintain the illusion. Failure was no longer a distant threat. It was imminent, tangible, and terrifying. The room felt like it was closing in around me, each laugh and whisper amplifying the pressure. Vanessa's sharp eyes followed my every move, and the stranger's attention never wavered. Every nerve in my body was alert, every muscle coiled, as if ready to snap. Alex's panic simmered just beneath the surface, but Eliza had to stay perfect, poised, charming, untouchable. Suddenly, the unexpected guest approached closer than anyone had dared. Their eyes scanned my face, lingering just a fraction too long, and I felt a jolt of fear. My hands clenched slightly, the subtle tremor betraying the tension I fought so hard to mask. "You're amazing," the stranger whispered, a tone that was both flattering and dangerous. The words were innocent on the surface, but the undercurrent of scrutiny set my nerves on fire. Every word I uttered, every smile I forced, was a dance on a knife's edge. Vanessa's voice, quiet but commanding, cut through the moment. "Don't forget the wager," she reminded me, her lips curling into a knowing smile. That single phrase made my stomach twist. The bet, it was always looming, the invisible thread controlling every step, every gesture. One wrong move, one slip, and the secret would explode in ways I couldn't control. I guided the stranger toward the seating area, laughing softly, tilting my head, ensuring Eliza's persona remained untouchable. But then a sudden sound, the sharp snap of a heel against the polished floor, made me freeze. I glanced down, realizing one of my shoes had shifted dangerously, the heel threatening to tip. Panic flared, and I felt Alex's fear surge violently. With a careful, almost imperceptible adjustment, I steadied myself, heart pounding. No one noticed. Yet inside, I was trembling, balancing between two identities. As I moved through the crowd, Vanessa observed silently from her corner, arms crossed, calculating. She knew. I could feel it, the way she measured each movement, each interaction. The stranger's gazes were equally assessing, probing for any crack in the facade. Eliza's confidence was fading under the weight of scrutiny, and Alex's anxiety surged to the surface in tiny, unnoticeable ways, sweaty palms, shallow breaths, micro-expressions. Then, chaos erupted. A champagne glass toppled from a distracted guest's hand, shattering near my feet. The loud crash was deafening, echoing through the room. Guests jumped back, startled, and I had to act instantly. Kneeling, I gathered the shards carefully, ensuring my dress and stockings weren't damaged, my composure intact. My hands shook, my pulse raced. This small accident could have exposed everything, the duality, the fear, the truth hidden beneath Eliza's polished exterior. Vanessa moved closer, her presence like a shadow over me. "Adapt, survive, or fail," she murmured, almost as if she were reading my thoughts. I nodded subtly, forcing a calm smile as I handed back the champagne to the guest, tucking my fear behind the elegant persona of Eliza. The adrenaline coursing through me was addictive and terrifying all at once. I had to keep dancing on this razor's edge, balancing between desire, fear, and survival. The stranger I had been engaging earlier leaned closer again, whispering something unintelligible. The heat of their breath, the intensity of their gaze, and the thrill of danger collided into a dizzying mix. I felt the pull of Alex's panic screaming for escape, yet Eliza had to respond. With measured grace, I tilted my head, laughed softly, and offered a casual remark that diverted attention just enough. It worked, but the moment left my heart racing, and the stakes felt higher than ever. The music swelled, masking the frantic pounding of my heart, but it couldn't drown out the tension crawling along my nerves. Eliza moved through the crowd with practiced grace, but inside, Alex was fraying at the edges. Each glance from Vanessa, each whisper from the guests, cut deeper than any blade. The party had become a minefield, and one misstep could set off an explosion of secrets I wasn't sure I could contain. A sudden tap on my shoulder made me spin slightly. A man with sharp features and piercing eyes leaned in, his gaze unnerving. "Quite the performance," he said, a thin smile tugging at his lips. My pulse leapt. Was he admiring me or dissecting me? The ambiguity was torturous. I offered a soft laugh, smoothing my dress, feeling the slick sensation of silk against my fingertips, trying to ground myself in the illusion of Eliza. Vanessa's shadow loomed near, her expression unreadable. She had been observing silently, and now her eyes narrowed, scanning me like a hawk. I felt a bead of sweat trickle down my temple, yet I forced a serene smile. Every fiber of my being screamed for me to run, to shed this persona and escape, but the stakes were too high. I had promised, and the wager was far from over. The stranger leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You're hiding something," he murmured, and my stomach sank. Every instinct screamed danger. I forced a casual tilt of my head, brushing my hair behind my ear, and smiled. "Maybe," I replied, letting the ambiguity hang in the air. The thrill and terror collided. If he pressed further, everything would shatter. Suddenly, a commotion erupted near the entrance. A guest had spilled wine across the floor, creating a slick hazard. The crowd reacted, shuffling and stepping back, and I nearly lost my balance. One heel slipped, threatening to betray the hours of careful practice I'd invested in maintaining Eliza's composure. Panic flared, Alex's instinct screaming to retreat, but I forced myself upright, adjusting the heel with a subtle step. Relief was fleeting, the party wasn't forgiving, and any visible falter could unravel everything. Then Vanessa approached, her heels clicking against a polished floor, each step deliberate, commanding. "Time to face the truth," she whispered, her voice a low, dangerous melody. My stomach nodded. Was this the moment of revelation, the point where the duality of Alex and Eliza would be exposed? I forced a laugh, a delicate, practiced sound, hoping to buy myself a few more seconds of control. From across the room, a guest I hadn't noticed before began to move closer, scrutinizing me. Their approach was subtle, casual, but every step carried the weight of potential discovery. I could feel the sweat slicking my palms, my nerves dancing like live wires. Each movement required precision. Tilt the head, shift the weight, keep the smile unwavering. One mistake and the truth would tumble out, and Alex's secret life would no longer be contained within the careful mask of Eliza. The man from before leaned in again, close enough that I felt the heat of his breath. "You're not who you say you are," he whispered, teasing and dangerous. My breath caught. Vanessa's eyes burned into me, impatient, expectant. Every instinct screamed to flee, but the allure of the challenge, the dangerous thrill of balancing on the edge of exposure, held me rooted. I had to continue, if only for a little longer. A loud crash echoed from the balcony as a waiter tripped, sending trays of glasses tumbling. The clatter reverberated through the hall, drawing gasps from the crowd. My heart jumped, but I smiled, gliding past the disaster as if nothing had happened. The adrenaline surged, intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. I realized that surviving this night required more than just poise. It demanded cunning, improvisation, and the courage to keep playing a dangerous game. Vanessa's whisper cut through my thoughts. "One more move, and everything changes." Her words sent a shiver down my spine. I understood. This was the final push. Every guest, every glance, every accidental slip was building to a crescendo. The line between Alex and Eliza was thinner than ever, and one wrong choice could shatter the illusion entirely. I clenched my fists beneath the folds of my dress, grounding myself. forcing calm into trembling muscles. The climax was here, and the night's suspense was about to reach its peak. The room seemed to shrink around me as the night reached its most precarious point. Every laugh, every clink of a glass, and every flash of conversation was magnified, sending tremors of anxiety through Alex's core. Eliza moved like liquid silk, fluid and composed, yet beneath that surface, Alex was unraveling. The line between the two identities was thinning, and the smallest misstep could fracture everything. Vanessa's presence was a constant, a shadow of judgment that I couldn't shake. She glided closer, each step deliberate, each glance weighing me down like a verdict I had not yet earned. "You've done well to get this far," she murmured, her tone laced with both praise and threat. My pulse spiked. Was it admiration, or was it a warning that I was about to be exposed? The ambiguity was torturous, tightening the coil of tension in my chest. Suddenly, the stranger from earlier reappeared at my side, observing me with unnerving intensity. His gaze roamed from head to toe, cataloging every detail of Eliza's appearance and Alex's nervous energy that threatened to peek through. "It's amazing what one can hide," he said softly. My fingers trembled slightly against the delicate fabric of my dress. One twitch, one subtle shift in posture, and he might see through the carefully constructed facade. From the corner of my eye, I noticed a tray wobbling precariously in the hands of a clumsy waiter. The sudden potential for chaos mirrored the inner turmoil I felt. My heart raced, adrenaline coursing, forcing me to focus every ounce of energy on keeping Eliza's persona perfect. One false move, one faltering step, and the night would erupt into disaster. A sudden hush fell over the room as a guest whispered something to Vanessa. Her head tilted slightly, her sharp eyes narrowing. I felt a chill run down my spine. What had she heard? Was my secret about to be revealed in front of everyone? I forced a serene smile, my lips curving in the practiced, delicate arc of Eliza's poise. My stomach twisted as I tried to maintain the illusion of confidence while Alex panicked beneath the surface. Then it happened, a high heel caught on the edge of a carpet. Time seemed to slow as I stumbled, the dress slipping slightly at my shoulder, threatening to betray the hours of careful preparation. The stranger reached out, ostensibly to steady me, but the heat of his hand against mine sent a jolt of panic and thrill through me. My pulse thundered in my ears, the room spinning as I forced a graceful recovery, sliding my foot back into stability. The crowd barely noticed, but I had felt the near collapse with every fiber of my being. Vanessa's lips curved into a knowing smile. "Careful," she whispered, a subtle warning carried in her sultry tone. I nodded, feigning composure, while inside, Alex's mind screamed in alarm. Each second stretched endlessly, every movement a precarious balancing act between exposure and survival. I could feel the sweat dampening my hairline, the tightness of my chest pressing reminders of the risk I was taking. The stranger leaned closer once more, his voice barely audible over the soft hum of conversation. "Do you enjoy this game, or is it torment?" My heart skipped. How could he know the truth? Did he sense the duality within me, the tension between Alex and Eliza? I swallowed hard, forcing a laugh, trying to sound airy and flippant. "A little of both," I murmured, hoping my voice didn't betray the storm inside. A sudden commotion near the balcony drew everyone's attention. Someone had dropped a glass, and the clatter echoed like a gunshot. Panic threatened to rise again, but I forced myself forward, gliding toward the safety of a more crowded area. Each step was calculated, each movement an intricate dance of survival. The party had become a gauntlet, and I was forced to navigate it with precision, poise, and nerve. Vanessa's gaze locked on mine, her eyes sharp and calculating. "One more choice," she said, her tone heavy with implication. The words reverberated through me. One more decision, one more action, and the night's suspense would either climax or crumble. I could feel the weight of every eye on me, the scrutiny of every guest, and the ever-present danger of being unmasked. Alex's inner turmoil collided with Eliza's outward grace, creating a tension so thick it was nearly suffocating. Then, just as the panic threatened to peak, a sudden, unexpected voice cut through the tension. "Eliza?" It was soft, uncertain, but familiar. My heart leapt. Recognition, danger, exposure, everything converged in a single, terrifying instant. The stranger's eyes widened, Vanessa's smirk faltered slightly, and the room seemed to hold its breath. The delicate balance of secrets and personas teetered on the edge, and the next move would define everything. The voice lingered in the air, a single word that made my heart slam against my ribcage. "Eliza." Every sense sharpened, every nerve alive. I froze mid-step, the dress brushing against my thighs as I tried to process who had recognized me. The party's hum felt distant, muted by the pounding of my pulse. Was it a friend, a guest, or someone who could unravel everything in an instant? The stranger from before leaned closer, eyes narrowing with curiosity and suspicion. "Interesting," he murmured under his breath, his tone more measured than before. He seemed to sense the weight of the moment, the delicate balance between exposure and survival, and his smile was unreadable, part amusement, part warning. My fingers clutched the edge of my clutch bag, the metallic clasp digging into my palm, grounding me as Alex and Eliza wrestled for dominance. Vanessa's presence was magnetic and intimidating all at once. She drifted closer, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor, and I could feel her sharp gaze dissecting every micro-expression on my face. "Looks like someone's noticed," she whispered, a hint of mischief in her voice. Panic bubbled beneath my carefully composed exterior, but I forced a soft laugh, my voice trembling just enough to sound natural. A sudden movement by the balcony caught my attention, a waiter stumbling, sending a tray of champagne glasses teetering toward disaster. Instinctively, I lunged, steadying the tray mid-fall. My heart thundered from the close call, and I realized the stranger's eyes were glued to my actions. He wasn't just watching Eliza. He was testing Alex, seeing how far I could maintain the illusion under pressure. The thrill of the performance mingled dangerously with the fear of exposure. Then, from the shadows near the large bay windows, the familiar figure emerged. My chest tightened. It was Emma. She had arrived early, her face a mix of surprise and suspicion. "Alex?" she asked softly, her voice carrying through the room like a bell toll. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, to vanish, to hide behind the persona of Eliza, but the truth clawed at the edges of my facade. I forced myself to smile, a careful, delicate curve of my lips. "Evening, Emma," I murmured, hoping the calm tone masked the storm inside. She stepped closer, her eyes scanning me from head to toe, taking in the dress, the carefully applied makeup, the poised stance. I could feel Alex's fear and embarrassment boiling just beneath Eliza's calm exterior. Every muscle was tense, every heartbeat synchronized with the suspense that now gripped the room. Vanessa leaned against a nearby column, arms crossed, her smirk now laced with a knowing amusement. The unmasking begins," she whispered, her words like daggers and silk combined. The stranger remained silent, but the intensity of his gaze pinned me in place. It felt as if the entire room had narrowed into a spotlight on me, every eye waiting, judging, anticipating. Emma took another step, her curiosity morphing into something more, understanding, perhaps, or concern. "Are you?" she began, hesitation threading her tone. I swallowed, the sensation of my throat tightening almost physical. This was it. The line between Alex and Eliza, between secret and revelation, was razor-thin. One word, one gesture, one misstep, and everything could collapse. Suddenly, the party erupted around us. Someone tripped, laughter rang out, glasses clinked, and music swelled. In that moment of chaos, I had to decide. Should I retreat behind the persona I had cultivated with such care, or reveal the truth and risk everything? The room spun with the noise and tension, the duality of Alex and Eliza clashing in a symphony of fear, thrill, and anticipation. I took a slow, deliberate breath, each inhale steadying my trembling hands. My gaze met Emma's, searching for a hint of acceptance, judgment, or curiosity. Time seemed to stretch, the suspense thickening like syrup around my chest. Every instinct screamed survival, every nerve fired with anticipation, and every heartbeat echoed the tension that now defined the night. Finally, I allowed a single smile, genuine yet careful, to curve my lips. It was an acknowledgement, a silent promise, a subtle tease. The room felt like it held its breath, every eye on me, every shadow waiting for the inevitable reveal. The dance between fear and exhilaration, secrecy and exposure, had reached its apex. And as the music swelled, the lights shimmered, and the crowd moved around us, I realized that nothing would ever be the same again. The room felt suspended in time, a fragile bubble where every movement, every sound, every glance could shatter the carefully maintained illusion I had built. Emma's eyes remained locked on me, unblinking, searching. The crowd's chatter faded into a low hum, a distant backdrop to the storm of emotions boiling inside me. I felt the weight of every second, the fragile balance between exposure and survival, and the exhilaration that came with living so close to the edge. Vanessa leaned casually against the marble column, arms crossed, smirking like she had orchestrated this moment all along. The stranger remained silent, an unreadable expression that hinted at approval, curiosity, or judgment. My pulse pounded in my ears as I realized that everyone in the room had somehow become a participant in this tense spectacle, whether they knew it or not. Emma's next words were slow, measured, and deliberate. "Alex, or should I say Eliza?" The soft, teasing lilt of her voice sent shivers down my spine. My mind raced, every instinct warning me that this was the moment of truth. Should I run? Should I defend myself? Should I laugh it off and maintain my Eliza persona? The answers tangled together, impossible to separate, as my chest tightened with anticipation. My voice faltered, the carefully constructed barrier between Alex and Eliza threatening to collapse. My fingers gripped my clutch like a lifeline, knuckles white against the metallic clasp. Every ounce of confidence I had built over the past weeks seemed to hang by a thread, swaying precariously in the room's charged atmosphere. Vanessa chuckled softly, a sound that was equal parts amusement and warning. "Looks like the game's not over yet," she said, her eyes glittering with mischief. "Who knows what surprises tonight still hold?" Her words were a spark in the powder keg, igniting the tension that had been building. Emma stepped closer, her gaze softening slightly, but not losing its intensity. "I need to know the truth," she whispered, the words barely audible over the swelling music. "I need to know who you really are and who you want to be." The vulnerability in her tone made my heart ache. It wasn't just the fear of being caught. It was the fear of losing her, of breaking the fragile trust between us, of exposing the deepest parts of myself to someone whose opinion mattered more than anyone else's. As the music shifted, a slow, sensual beat filling the room, my mind raced for a way out. I could feel Eliza's persona pulsing through me, the confidence, the allure, the thrill of transformation. But Alex's reality tugged at the edges, reminding me of what was at stake. One misstep, one slip of emotion, and everything could unravel. Suddenly, the stranger stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. "Perhaps it's time we find out," he said, his voice calm but laden with expectation. The tension in the room snapped to a new level, every eye following his movement. He gestured subtly toward Emma, toward me, a silent dare that amplified the suspense. I took a step forward, trembling slightly, my heels clicking against the floor with each movement. Every breath I drew felt amplified, every heartbeat echoing like a drum in the silent anticipation of the crowd. The duality of Alex and Eliza swirled inside me, a storm of fear, excitement, vulnerability, and desire. Emma's gaze softened, a mix of curiosity and something deeper, something I couldn't yet define. "I'll wait," she said simply, her voice carrying a promise and a challenge. The weight of her words settled on my shoulders like a mantle I wasn't sure I could bear. And then, a sudden crash from the far end of the room. A waiter had dropped a tray of glasses, the clinking and shattering sending a jolt through everyone. Gasps filled the air. Eyes darted around the room, the spell momentarily broken. But in that fraction of a second, my focus remained on Emma, on Vanessa, on the stranger, on the fragile line I had been walking. I froze, caught between two selves, knowing that the next moment could define everything. Would I reveal the truth? Would I retreat into the safety of Eliza's persona? Or would the chaos of the party tip the balance and expose me completely? The music swelled once more, the lights shimmering over the crowd, over the polished floors, over the intricate web of secrets and desires that had brought us all here. And as the camera of imagination captured the moment, frozen in suspense, the story reached its cliffhanger. Alex and Eliza stood at the precipice, the boundary between secrecy and revelation trembling. Emma's eyes held questions, challenges, and a quiet promise. Vanessa's smirk hinted at future games, and the stranger's unreadable gaze sealed the uncertainty. And in that moment, suspended between fear and exhilaration, the audience is left to wonder, what will happen next? Will the truth come out? Will Alex survive the night as Eliza? Or will the delicate balance of secrets collapse, leaving nothing but exposed vulnerability and uncharted transformation? The story ends here for now.